Hello there, good evening, and a warm welcome to another episode of Business Focus here on TV3 with me, Michael Obodu. Coming up tonight on the show, government claims economic recovery, but critics ask, at what cost? The former Deputy Finance Minister puts Ghana's economic turnaround claim under the microscope. So we do have that exclusive interview coming up shortly for you. And do remember that Business Focus is sponsored by Telecel and EcoBank. Now, every day people face different emergencies: police emergency, fire emergency, medical emergency, you name it. But many Ghanaians don't know their emergency numbers. Well, here's one you would want to remember: *770#. Yes, *770# is the new EcoBank money emergency number. *770# gives you instant access to loans, fund transfers, utility payments, airtime and data purchases, and so much more even without data. So there's no need to panic when you find yourself in any money emergency. EcoBank will always come to your rescue. Dial *770# now for solutions for your money emergencies. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank. Well, now we'll turn our attention quickly to the currency and commodities market and bring you updates on how the developments basically in this front, and also turn your attention to the treasury market. We'll start off from the forex market, where currently the dollar will be bought from you at 10 cedis 50 pesos, sold to you at 10 cedis 51. The pound will be bought from you at 13 cedis 95 pesos and will be sold to you at 13 cedis 96 pesos. The euro will be bought from you at 12 cedis 14 pesos and sold to you at 12 cedis 16 pesos. But do be guided that these figures will be much higher at a forex bureau near you. On the global commodities front, the price of cocoa has fallen by $55. It's trading at $7,499 per ton. Gold also is up by a little over $8. It's trading at $3,372 per ounce. Crude oil, is now trading at $68.85 after losing some marginal value over there. On the treasury bills market, the 91-day bill is going at 10.29%, 182-day bill 12.35%, and 364-day bill 13.25%. All these rates are interestingly below inflation, raising critical questions about what really the strategy is of the government in basically creating more fiscal space for itself, cutting down its debt, and potentially opening the bonds market. We'll explore that in the middle of our conversation. But this is Business Focus. I'm Michael Obodu. We'll go for a quick breather. When we come back, we'll bring you the details. Stay tuned.
How may I help you today?
We'd like to open a bank account.
Sign here, sign here, sign here.
reporting from the Takoradi Market Circle.
From the heart of the Upper West Regional Capital.
From the heart of the Ashanti Kingdom.
Reporting from Sunyani.
From the Central Business District of Navrongo.
The parliamentarians are on recess.
This is where it all unfolds. The moments that potentially alters the course of our nation and the world. These are the individuals we recognize, the voices we amplify, who appears on screen and who contributes behind the scenes. With professionalism at our core, we bring you news you can trust, impact journalism that makes a difference. This illustrates how diverse perspectives enhance our strength and reinforces our mission. This is 3 News. Leaders in breaking news, exclusive interviews, facts and analysis on TV, radio, online and digital. 3 News, first in news.
Welcome back. This is Business Focus here on TV3 with me, Michael Obudu. Now, tonight, government says it inherited the worst economy in Ghana's history, yet 6 months later, it claims to have turned things around. But how much of this is real recovery and how much is political storytelling? Well, in studio today, former Deputy Finance Minister Dr. Alex Ampabing puts some of these, is here to set the record straight, really, and put some of these assertions under the microscope. Thank you so much for joining us, and good evening.
Good evening, my brother.
Okay, so the NDC government says it received more or less the worst crisis in history with regards to the economy. Do you agree with this, or would you say it's just political exaggeration?
You see, I think the country has moved to the point where some of these are unnecessary. Because how do you inherit the worst economy in history, and then in 6 months, you're reporting 5.3 growth in GDP? How? Everyone who understands even ECO 101 knows that fiscal policies and other government interventions which lead to positive GDPs are not handled in 3 months or 4 months. They are built upon over time. So achieving a 5.3% in Q1 automatically should tell you that somebody laid a foundation. And by the way, let me even step back a little. You know, in 2015, what was GDP? 3.1.
Yeah.
In 2016, what was GDP? 3.4. Then, within that short time of taking over, NPP moved it from 3.4 to the point where they were recording the 11th, they were recording the 8.6, 6.5, and then 6.8 until 2020. And you all know what happened. I don't want to repeat. I know Ghanaians are tired of that. So there was a positive growth until 2020. Even 2020, when Kenya recorded negative 0.3, Nigeria recorded negative 1.9, Zambia negative 2.7, South Africa a negative 5.9. Ghana, among all this, was the only country that achieved a positive 0.5. So even in the heat of the pandemic when things were tough. And then right after, we started climbing again to 5.1 in 2021, and then 3.2 in 2022. And you know what happened? COVID came in, so it started coming down. Again, the same thing with inflation. We inherited 17.7% in 2015. And then in 2016, 15.4. Then straight away, we brought it to what? 11.8.
But when you were leaving, it was over 20.
I'm coming. I'm building something.
Okay.
So 11.8, Then it came all the way to 7.9. In fact, the first 3 years of NPP, I would say the 18 months in between, recorded the lowest inflation level of single digit in the history of the country. Then you go to 2020, COVID came in, you moved to 10.4. Then 2022, COVID came in, we moved, Russian-Ukraine invasion and the global supply chain challenges moved us to 54%. At that point, compare the global inflationary rate, compare the sub-Saharan African inflationary rate. So from 54, I'm not going to say it was good, it was bad. But the reality is that it was a global phenomenon. No country under the world was recording a lower level of inflation at the time. So from 54, if I make that as a benchmark, it started coming down. So from 30 to 33, 27, at the time we were leaving office was around 21, just under 21. So it should tell you that the inflation and all the fiscal policies government has put in place was making sure that inflation was coming down. I am not going to take away the credit that this government deserves. Absolutely not. Because inflation is not at 13 or so by magic. Definitely an effort has gone in, and I do recognize those contributions. But what I want is that
So at least you commend them for the fact that, looking at the numbers alone, they've been able to drop inflation from 23 to about 13.7, over 1,000 basis points drop.
The point I'm trying to make is that that has to be built on. All those that are happening, all the happenings, and I'm saying that I'm benchmarking 2022. This is not a magic that happened over time. So go back from 2022 coming, every single month it was coming down. But what I'm saying is that somebody deserves credit for the part they have played, just as we also deserve the credit for how far we went with the challenges and how inflation was trending downwards. But the fact of the matter is that you cannot say you've inherited the worst economy and then GDP will grow by over 5% in a few months of it being in office. It doesn't work like that. Economy, when it grows, is based on the fundamentals you have put together over time. You're an economist yourself. You're a finance person yourself. Are you telling me that they inherited the worst economy and all of a sudden the economy has turned around that we are producing 5.1% in GDP growth? It doesn't work like that. So the economy is not like, growing economy is not like putting food on fire. That 10 minutes, it will get ready. Something has to go in. We left a reserve of overnight almost 10 billion. Have you talked about that? We left structures in place. The debt restructuring had been done. Almost everything that had to be followed, the foundation had been laid down. So what I'm saying is that, yes, things were tough. And I'm not going to sit here to say they inherited the best economy. Absolutely not. But the point I'm making is that to describe it as a worse economy is a way of discounting, especially the 2024 efforts that went in, especially with my boss, Honorable Amin Adams, Stika, Honorable Abnai, and myself, what we went in together and the structures we left in place to allow this related improvement that we're seeing.
So you take credit at one point and you sort of cede credit also to...
You will share. You
will share. Fair. At least that is fair. But what do you make of all the fiscal interventions that this government has put in place? You've seen stable exchange rate, inflation dropping drastically. We've seen also policy rate cuts significantly, 300 basis points, the highest in over a decade. What do you make of all the efforts this government has made?
I think, again, a good effort has gone in somewhere. But again, we also need to situate things. You see, I'm sure you come to the currency appreciation. How come you're talking so beautiful about all those inflation figures, you're talking about all those fiscal interventions? Has it increased jobs? Has it led to improvement in life, standard of living? No. Government has so far pumped over $1.5 billion into the economy, fiscal dollars into the economy. So the issue of demand and supply, if I would do it very basic economics, you pump $1.5 billion into the economy, you don't expect the dollar to be stronger. But in terms of sustaining it, are we able to pump in 1.5 billion every year? What if gold production goes down? What if gold prices goes down? Because gold price has increased by almost 60%. You get it? It was 2,300 per ounce around this time last year. Now it's about 3,300. So that's a substantial increase. Are we going to enjoy that? I think no. And the reason is that why the shift into gold is because of the global uncertainties and huge central bank demand for gold. So as stabilization occurs, certainty set in, are we going to see more central banks trading in? As US and China able to stabilize, bring finality to their trade wars, and people begin to find confidence in the US dollar as a medium of exchange, is it going to now trigger more demand into gold? Nobody knows. But what I'm trying to say is that, yes, there has been an appreciation of the cedi, but again, this is not a magic, because a certain amount of money is purposely being pumped into the economy. And the question is, can we keep doing that? And one thing I also have to let you know is that appreciation of the cedi comes at a cost. And later you'll understand why the D-levy came in. Because D-levy is because of the, as I would describe it, as a cedi appreciation tax. Because the appreciation led a huge government revenue gap. So government now needs to find a way of bringing in that money. And therefore, the only response was to say, if you don't pay, they'll be doom so. Because, you know, anytime you mention doom so, everybody will like to
But
avoid.
it's the reality on the ground because of the huge debt that your government left in the energy sector. Okay. And this is another government trying to remedy the situation by using the lifeline available to them. Don't you agree?
The first thing I would like to ask is that, who signed the PPAs? Who brought in the power purchase agreements? So if you have to apportion blame, let's apportion it well. Again, one thing I have to be clear, and as I keep saying, Ghanaians deserve the right to know. You see, I have been in the ministry. Every government successively knows that there are under collections from the energy companies, i.e. ECG. Therefore, government makes specific provisions, what you call the energy sector shortfalls. These are what we did as part of the IMF program. We have crunched the numbers there already. Last year, there was about just around 20 billion was pumped in. $1.7 billion was pumped in. This year, finance minister is putting in 28 billion. What I'm trying to say is that trace it all the way back every year. Pick every single budget and see whether we have a line called the energy sector shortfall payment. And if you say you're going to use that money to buy fuel, again, I have to be clear. The payment of fuel only happens when we are, the energy companies are doing kind of renovations, because we normally don't rely on fuel. Our generation are normally powered by gas. So last year, for example, I think if my memory will serve me right, probably we spent less than 700 million in fuel generation. But here we are looking for billions. So what I'm trying to say is that even on fuel, less than 25% or 15% was actually not on gas. So coming back to say you want one Ghana cedi because of doom, so that is not right. Now here's the question, here's the issue. You see, every liter of fuel that comes into the country, government gets a percentage. I'm sure you know that the fuel buildup is normally taxes and levies that making up almost 38 to 40%. Now, when the
figure has reduced significantly because the price of fuel is up, so it's way below 40% at the moment.
Okay, hold on. I'm talking about the price build-up. I'm not talking about the rate.
Yeah, the price build-up.
Okay.
Yeah,
now,
it's way lower than 40%, right?
Okay, now I'm saying, the point I'm trying to make is that there's a government revenue component in the fuel price buildup. So, for example, when the fuel was, say, 15, if I use 40%, that's about 6 Ghana cedis going to government for every litre. Now, because of appreciation, as a simple demonstration, if the fuel price now comes to 12, what means is that government is going to get about 4 cedi per litre. So, by simple calculation, what does it tell you? From 6 cedis to now 4 cedis. So every litre of fuel, government has lost how much? 2 Ghana cedis. But when you are doing the budget in 2024 to cover 2025, you made a provision that I am going to get maybe 12 billion from fuel as a demonstration. Every year we use 5.1 billion litres. So multiply the simple 2 Ghana cedi per litre by 5.1 billion. How much do you get? Now, let's say that's about 10 billion as a simple demonstration. Now that it has come to 2 Ghana cedis, let's say you get 8 billion. How much have you lost? 2 billion, simply because of the cedi appreciation. So the point I'm saying is that appreciation...
Which is a good thing on the other side, because that also means that your debts are declining significantly.
Correct. So therefore, there's always a price to pay. The appreciation is good on one end, especially if most of your revenue is earned domestically. But if you have an external component, for example, you go and sell gold, if the dollar appreciates, when you come back, you're going to feel it, the pinch in here. Because when you're doing the budget, you do the budget in cedis. So as the cedi gains strength, it has a direct impact on your budget. So it is the loophole that the cedi appreciation has created that is calling the government to now introduce the D-levy as a revenue measure to build the fiscal gap. As simple as that.
Well, hopefully we'll get the ministry to respond to this, because from the release that they made, the point is that there's they have to raise money to be able to finance the energy sector, and that is why this levy was introduced.
And the point I'm making is that we made all those... Look, we have done lots of debt restructure with the energy sector. And we were almost through, and I'm sure the ministry is still keeping tabs with that. Once you do the restructuring, it doesn't mean we have, been freed of the debt. What it means is that at least we have some leeway without an immediate pressure. You also have the allocations that you make every year as part of the top-up payment. So it becomes very difficult that all of a sudden, after we crunch the numbers and left the provision, which the minister has put 28 billion this year, by the way, and is going to put 33 billion next year and 38 billion in 2027. We have done this, crunch the numbers with the help of the IMF, and we have provided this data there already. So what has changed? Because that revenue gap, which is the energy sector shortfall payment, we have made provisions in the budget. I'm not saying it will be enough, but it doesn't call for that quick panic. And you understand why this bill was rushed under certificates of urgency. And I'm telling you that. Of course, nobody is going to tell you from the ministry. If they wanted, they would have said it's a revenue gap. We are failing. But I am telling you that the provisions in the energy sector, and you see, it doesn't pay anyone to do blame games. What is most important is to find a sustainable way of making the energy sector stand on its feet.
But the interesting thing in all of this is that the Ghanaian doesn't seem bothered about paying this additional 1 cedi, so long as their standard of living improves. The polls we've run, or that have been run on Ghanaians' acceptance rate of the D-levy, like you put it, is at about 70%, as against the stiff opposition to the E-levy that was, for instance, introduced before. So if Ghanaians don't mind, then there's no cause for concern in the first place.
You know what is called honeymoon? You know honeymoon? It's a very sweet part of life. And therefore, you take advantage of it. And that's the fact here. You see, the goodwill and the honeymoon period is still there. But I can tell you, if it had been in a different period, or say with the different government who has been in the seat for some time, the acceptance will have been different. But because now the anger that made Ghanaians maybe changes is still with us. So therefore, whatever you will say now will not carry much weight. But let's give time some time. And I just hope that we are able to use this to clear the energy sector debt once and for all, so that we don't have to. Because the reality is that for how long should the ordinary Ghanaian keep paying the incompetencies of government agencies who are supposed to probably be collecting the right amount of revenue? It is not right for the citizens to keep paying, to keep ECG. There has to be. And you see, in all this, you also have to remember in the IMF program, you have an automatic tariff adjustment, which means every quarter. When the cedi appreciated, I was expecting, as per the IMF, the automatic tariff adjustment, the tariff to come down. But it didn't come down. Because the adjustment is that we adjust the levy that we pay based on the currency appreciation as one of the key components. But with appreciation, has energy bills come down? It has rather gone up.
Marginally.
No, it has gone up.
As in the recent announcement was very
Yes, it has gone up.
marginally.
It has gone up. You understand that? It has gone up, and at the same time, there is a 1 Ghana cedi on each liter you're saying towards it. So what I'm saying is that if you are to go by the IMF own conditionality, then maybe this time, I'm sure when you crunch the numbers, you might consider rather reducing it.
But you see, it's quite interesting that you go on that tangent because this government has been able to significantly reduce the price of fuel from about 14, 16 cedis when your government was leaving office to about 11 cedis at the pumps when you go there today. And if they decide to charge an additional 1 cedi to be able to keep the lights on, it's a fair bargain, don't you agree?
So then, what's the point of government trying to provide good standard of living? I'm not condemning government needing revenue. I think I would be very hypocritical to do that. I'm not condemning that government needs revenue. What I'm saying is that it's about the communication behind certain revenue measures. So you don't demonize the previous administration that they caused this, they caused that, they caused that, therefore I need money. What happened at the energy sector? How much debt was inherited? How much debt was left? What was the level of engagement that has taken place in terms of restructuring of the debt? Who signed those pay or purchase?
Alex, but your government failed to pay the power generators. You have also left some of their debts.
You say you also failed to pay.
You failed
and
to
I'm asking,
pay them.
how much did you inherit? I wish you have maybe the figures for us to go through. What I'm saying is that no government can say they don't owe the energy sector, whether the one who signed the PPA or we who came to continue. All because of the fundamental issues around the collection component. We call it technical losses. I'm here to understand all those technical and commercial losses. You see, we have come to accept what I'm saying. Government has a reason to charge more in order to generate the revenue. But the point I'm making is that we should not normalize certain words like ECG will say they incur loss of commercial losses and technical losses. What is that? For how long are we going to sit down that anytime ECG incurs commercial or technical losses, we pass it on to the citizen? That is the basis of my argument.
But this government has said that it is making efforts to privatize ECG to address that problem, something that your government could have done but didn't. And aside that too, the situation was so bad that when this government took office, the independent power producers had threatened to shut down, so much so that the first meeting the president ever had after assuming office was to meet the IPPs to keep the power on. So you should take some blame for the situation in the energy sector, don't you think?
Which PPAs said they were going to shut down?
It was in the news, the IPPs. The president met with them.
IPPs, were you there?
Well, I think it was in the news.
That's what I'm saying. That when MPP came into power, the same issue was there. When those agreements were signed, in fact, they threaten all the time. And simply because it's down to the price waterfall mechanism, which is not being followed, I think was one of the reasons. Because we put in the price waterfall mechanism to allow ECG to make sure that every money that you generate, you divide it, section goes to your operations, A goes to IPPA, B goes to IPPB, so that at the end of the day, there is something that goes to them. But if this is not being followed, if I'm saying that the issue, the whole issue, or I would say a chunk of the issue, is with ECG. So it's not about we threaten to shut down. I remember somebody saying we have just 2 days of energy, which is not true. And that's what I'm saying.
He came back to clarify that.
Well, they said it.
They came to clarify
like
that, at
typical example. Recently, not long ago, there was an issue. There was something in the news that the previous government got money from the IMF, the last tranche, and they spent the money within 6 days. Do you remember?
Yes.
You remember? Go to this budget and open page paragraph 111. Paragraph 111, the minister himself has indicated that the financing gap, the fiscal gap, for this period we are in, is being bridged by the money that we took, which we didn't spend from the IMF. I mean, but why would publicly people say kind of things like this just to demonize MPP or we who are in power? Who can spend 370 million from IMF within 6 days of leaving office? But meanwhile, paragraph 111, anybody watching me, go to paragraph 111 and see what the minister put there. That the fiscal gap for this particular period is being financed by the money, by the IMF disbursement taken by the previous government, which was not spent. But in the same way, we are saying we spend the money in 6 days.
So hold your horses. We are going for a quick break. This is Business Focus here on TV3. We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with former Deputy Finance Minister, Dr. Alex Afando. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. This is Business Focus here on TV3 with me, Michael Obudu. And do remember that Business Focus is sponsored by Telecel and EcoBank. Now, every day people face different emergencies: police emergency, fire emergency, medical emergency, you name it. But many Ghanaians don't know their emergency numbers. Well, here's one you would want to remember: *770#. Yes, *770# is the new EcoBank money emergency number. *770# gives you instant access to loans, funds transfer, utility payments, airtime and data purchases, and so much more, even without data. So there's no need to panic when you find yourself in any money emergency. EcoBank will always come to your rescue. Dial star 770 hash now for solutions to your money emergencies. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank. We still have in studio with us Dr. Alex Ampabing, former Deputy Finance Minister. Now we'll segue to the issue of public debt. This government says the debt has reduced by 13.7 billion in the last 3 years. In the last 6 months, I beg your pardon. That's a very commendable feat. You agree with the numbers?
You said it's commendable.
Asking, you think?
Well, see, we need to understand how we calculate debt to GDP. So if you say they have reduced it in 6 months and it's commendable, I would like to know how much repayments have been made. Because the repayments were scheduled and we haven't paid more. Number two.
Aren't you picking and choosing? Because it is clear on the face of it that the debts in dollar denominations because of the strengthening of the cedi have reduced significantly.
And I'm coming there. Therefore, the first question I want to ask you is that if you look at the debt, has it reduced in dollar terms? No. So therefore, what I'm saying is that it is commendable, yes, commendable that we have our debt reduced.
Yeah.
But the understanding, you should understand the underlying behind it. One, we haven't paid more than we should.
But it's strengthened the cedi enough such that the debt has reduced significantly.
Number two is that a chunk of our debt is dollar denominated. So therefore, and we report in-house normally in cedi terms. Of course, the annual debt report have both cedi and dollar. But in the budget, you report that in cedi terms. So as the cedi appreciates, the debt comes down. So for example, if $1 is 15 cedis, and then you owe me $2, how much is it in cedi? 30. Now, if the dollar come to 10, and you haven't paid my debt, how much do you owe me? 20 Ghana cedis. Has your debt reduced in dollar terms? No.
But in
cedi terms it has.
Yes.
So the point I'm trying to make is that the appreciation of the currency has led to this.
Also on the back of strengthened fundamentals.
What?
The cedi has strengthened on the back of solid fundamentals, in quote. Your former candidate has stated that the fundamentals, if they are weak, will expose you. So isn't this a sign that this government has solidified the fundamentals? Appreciation
based normally or predominantly by gold receipts. One thing you should understand is that within the IMF, you know, we had the reserve thresholds, if you like to call it. And now we've been able to, because we have already built our reserves already, now we are able to sell the gold that we are getting through Gold Board and weekly be putting in the money. So there's more coming in. So if you're talking about the fundamentals has been one, appreciation of gold price. Number two, the quantum, i.e. the quantity of gold that we're able to export.
Thanks to some of the initiatives by this government, like the Gold Board, that ensures that the country takes charge of ownership of its gold.
The Gold Board is a brilliant idea. The Gold Board is a brilliant idea, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's not good because we didn't do it. Gold Board is a brilliant idea. One, it is one of the reasons why, if not the main reason why we have the cedi appreciations. Before, when Galamsey was all over and everybody can export, people find way of bringing in illicit funds and find way the back door to get those illicit funds out, which made it very difficult to even control the dollar. Now with the Gold Board, it is possible that now it's centralized. Sale of gold is centralized. So what I'm trying to tell you, appreciating the Gold Board is good, it's a brilliant idea. But the reality is that the gold sales, exports, has been the main reason for the cedi's performance, and also the appreciation of gold prices. So keeping the currency is pretty much going to depend on the having the quantum of gold that we are having, and also hoping that prices will be as it is, and also being able to pump over 1.5 to 2 billion annually into the economy. This is not rocket science, and these are not what you might want to say is a fundamental, because these are external driven predominantly.
Not entirely so, because
that
we do know that small-scale gold outputs exceeded that of large-scale production as a first quarter of this year alone, since the introduction of the gold board. It means that the potential for increase in output is there. Aside that, also, we don't expect...
gold, you're going to extract gold from now till
if you let
God
me
will come.
We also don't expect the price of gold to plummet anytime soon, looking at where we are currently on a global front.
I think that's
so
very
at least
difficult
these are
to tell.
two dynamics that are in the favor of the government. Don't you agree?
I think it's very difficult to tell. You see, the demand for gold has been pushed by, as I said earlier, because of global central government's demand for it.
That's a
and
fact.
purely because of the global economic challenges. The very
Which is not going away anytime soon.
The very challenge...
Which is not going away anytime soon. I think at least you agree with that.
I'm not going to put time on it, because Trump can get up the next day and he can say all sorts. So it's very difficult to put time on it. What I'm saying is that if the cedi appreciation is predominantly externally driven, but you are sitting here talking about fundamental. And what I'm telling you is that the gold board has been the biggest fundamental. And I'm not going to take that away.
From gold generated locally, that's not external. At least the output is not external.
But the prices are.
But the output isn't, which is also a key variable in this.
The prices and the demand are. So what I'm saying is that it's a mixture of both. But you make it, couch it as if there's strong fundamentals here. And I'm saying, yes, there's an element of it. But it is not entirely. When it's the part or even more than part is externally driven.
I was thinking you would have said that because you are trying to take credit for where the economy currently is, because you...
And I think I did.
You had said that you had helped lay the fundamentals. So I was thinking you would have said the fundamentals you have laid would continue to help sustain the economy. But it's like you are shying away from the efforts that you're supposed to have made.
Oh, no. I think, Michael, if you're my student, I'll be feeling you all the time. But you see, when you ask a question, take your time and understand where it's going. The conversation was around the drivers of the current appreciation of the cedi. And I made reference that it is based on, one, the quantum of gold that we send out, the central bank's willingness to pump in that fiscal dollar when it comes, and also the demand. Here we are not talking about all other things that probably are or may contribute, but the emphasis was on the current appreciation. And I'm saying that the gold board has played a pivotal role in this. And that, to me, the gold board is no brainer. It's a brilliant idea. But on its own, in the long term, cannot sustain the cedi. But for now, it is good. So let's think of, in achieving this level of, what do you call it, appreciation, how do we sustain it? And that's the reason why prices are still not coming down as they should, because importers are still holding up to think, how long will this last? Once they are certain of sustainability, prices will come back drastically. And I do believe that the external driven component of, one, the quantum, the price, if are well handled, but if other factors in the long term will help strengthen it, then it's in the right direction. But of course, I'm not going to say about 56.6% to almost 60% increase in small-scale mining. I think from 23.6% or so, same first half last year, to now almost 56%. That to me is remarkable. And it has, in a way, helped curb the incident of small. I hope.
Fair point. Now let's talk about the cedi. It has appreciated by 42% against the US dollar, judged the best performing currency in the world some months ago. Inflation currently from 23.8% to 13.7%. Are these real improvements short term, or you think that this will last for a long while, looking at the fundamentals that you said you helped lay?
You see, the issue of appreciation of currency and inflation has been Ghana's biggest problem. And this cuts across every government. Otherwise, you won't be making politics of it every 4 years. Look for an election cycle in Ghana where these two did not feature. But once, I am saying that once this is great, that we are where we are, the conversation shouldn't be about reducing the rate of inflation. What is the essence of reducing inflation if people are unemployed? So it's about sustaining it, creating jobs. And how do we sustain if we are still importing far more? So industrialization, to make sure that we limit our import budget, is what is going to sustain it. We cannot sustain the current appreciation rate if we keep importing. That cannot happen. So therefore, whatever is happening now will be in the short term. But in the medium to the long term, we need to find measures, import substitution, to make sure that, yes, we are able to sustain it. We are not going to sustain by pumping more money into the economy like we are doing now. We are not going to sustain it by producing, exporting more gold. That's only if you can keep getting gold every year. But there's no guarantee you're going to get that quantity of gold every year. Gold, at some point, Ebesa. So you are not going to get that. And there's no guarantee you are going to get the prices we are getting now. So what is going to help us is, one, more job opportunities, more industrialized opportunities to make sure that we produce and consume made in Ghana products. Once we limit our import budget, then we are in a position to determine where or how far inflation, especially the imported components, and the currency depreciation should be.
But at least this government hopes to tackle that through some of its initiatives like the 24-hour economy and its agricultural industrialization drive. I'm sure at least you appreciate that effort.
Look, Ghana has no problem with slogans. Ghana, in fact, the whole world, if you want a country that we are very good at slogans, come to Ghana. The problem has to do with implementation. The 24-hour economy is nothing different from one district, one factory. Because the whole idea is that you want to produce and export and create jobs. So if it's not for political expediency, there was no need to call our 24-hour economy. What is 24-hour economy? Because at the end of the day, it's an industrialization agenda you want to pursue. As simple as that. Because any company that has a demand will operate 24 hours by default. You don't need to go and tell Wachi owner to go and stand at the street where there's nobody passing and say, keep selling 24 hours because government has brought a policy. But when there's demand, it will. So how do we get that demand? It's about getting the enablers ready. The enablers are having constant electricity. The enablers are having the right raw materials in country. The enablers are having very good security. There are some places by 5 o'clock, Momo agent is closed because he's scared of security. How do we sort all these problems? When there's not enough electricity or when there's doom, so are you really expecting businesses to operate? So to me, one district, one factory is the same as, what do you call it? The 24-hour economy.
Fair point.
It's just political.
If you were finance minister today, what 3 actions would you take in the next 6 months to reset the economy?
I think when I was leaving, I'm not resetting. We are building on. And to me, my interest would be more on industrialization. Look, the solution of tackling Ghana's unemployment crisis rests with industrializing the economy. So there should be more resources allocation there. Infrastructure, especially digital infrastructure. The future has moved away from brick and mortar. What we need is an economy that relies on digitization. The world is moving. Now AI and co are taking over. We cannot sit and be doing things on paper like we keep doing, like the brick and mortar situation. So if I am, the most important thing will be policies that will lead to more, as Dan Latte would say, domestication.
Fair point. So what's your single most important message to Ghanaians right now on the way forward with this country?
I think we should move away from the politics of insult. We should move away from the politics of insult. Because you see, whatever I'm saying here are based on facts. These are things we can easily get online. That's why I keep making references to the budget. But somebody who have no interest at all, because you are speaking for MPP, automatically you annoy the person. But the country has to move away. And I think the future belongs to the youth. And the best way for all of us to have a better Ghana is to be an informed citizens. The data is out there. So once they are making all those propaganda, you have the chance as a youth to actually question. So let's move away from the politics of insults. And then I would like to say a very good evening to one wonderful person of mine.
Who could this be?
Honorable Kennedy Ejapong. He'll be picking his nomination form tomorrow.
Okay.
And I wish him the very best of luck in the upcoming primaries.
Just to clear the air, are you by this showing your support behind Kennedy Ejapong? just to clear the air.
Yes.
That's surprising.
Why?
Especially for someone who served in the Ghana government. Wouldn't you say this is a deviation from the norm?
No. You see, politics, you don't have weapons. Your weapon is information. So how you get the information, how you process the information, and how you use the information to strategize now determines the outcome of your political successes or failures. And to me, whatever decision I'm making is nothing based on betrayal. It is based on the information I've received on the grounds that the people out there who sent me in the first place to have the opportunity do believe that bring this person, we give you the power.
Okay.
And I do think that the time is right. The time is right. Kennedy is the right candidate. Youth unemployment, as I said, is a big problem. And so far, people in business have demonstrated that they can do well. Berlusconi was one of them, became one of the most successful presidents in Italy history, coming over 3 times. We have our Donald Trump.
Okay.
We have Takis Shinawatra of Thailand.
So you think
there are lots of
Ejapong
businessmen who have been successful.
is the Donald Trump for Ghana?
He is the Berlusconi, the Donald Trump, the taxi that we have in Ghana. And I do believe that he has the answer to Ghana's unemployment. It has nothing to do with betrayal of Dr. Bawumia.
Well, you just heard it first here on Business Focus. Former Deputy Finance Minister Alex Ampabin throws his weight behind Kennedy Ejapong, presidential hopeful of the New Patriotic Party. Thank you so much for joining us in studio. It was good having you.
Thank you.
All right. And that'll be all for today's edition of Business Focus here on TV3. For more business stories, please visit our website at 3news.com/business. I am Michael Lobodu. Thank you for watching. As always, please stay safe. Catch you same time next week.
Business Focus is brought to you by EcoBank, Telecel,